Hello everyone, my name is Shambhavi. Hope you all are doing well. So basically from today we are going to start the advanced Python. Right? So in this advanced Python, the first topic that I am going to cover here is the classes and objects, that is OOPS. Okay, so this is the very first topic that I am going to cover here, and after that let's see that what are the topics that we'll be covering. So right now today I'll be telling you that what actually we mean from OOPS, that is object oriented programming, what we actually mean from this, and then what are classes, what are objects, and how to make a class. Okay, these are the topics that I'll be covering today. So right, let's get started here. So first, the thing that I have just like already stored some definitions for you all so that you can have a good look of that and a proper look of that. So basically, Python is a multi-paradigm programming language. It supports different programming approaches, right? We all know this thing about Python, right? That it is a multi-paradigm programming language and it basically supports different programming approaches. Now, basically, one of the popular approaches to solve a programming problem is by creating objects. Okay. Now, in Python, as I just mentioned, that we have many and different programming approaches. Now, from all of that programming approaches, there is one very popular approach for solving a programming problem, and that is basically by creating objects. And that procedure is actually known as object-oriented programming. Okay. So whenever you are solving a problem, solving a programming problem by creating the objects, so that is actually called as object-oriented programming, right? So I hope you must be very clear with the definition that what actually we mean from object-oriented programming. Now, basically we have here that what is an object. Right, now the object has two characteristics, attributes and behavior. Now let's say I'll just give you a very real life example. Let's say I have two pens with me. Okay, I have two pens. Now basically what are the attributes? Attributes means that what are the things that differs both pens, what are the things that what are differences in both of these pens. The differences can be color, difference can be size, difference can be that it is a blue pen or a black pen, and the difference should can be of company, right? Basically from which company that pen belongs to. Right, so these are the differences, these are the categories with which we can make a difference between the two pens, right? Now that is actually what we call as attributes. Right, when I just talk about that object has two characteristics, the first one is attribute. So attribute actually means the properties that differentiate between both of the pens. That is actually called as attributes here. And what is the behavior? Behavior actually refers that what is the like what behavior does that object follow. Let's say we had just taken the example for pen. Right, so that pen is basically helps us in writing. Okay, that helps us in writing. So that is the behavior of the pen. Right, so this is the real life example which I have just mentioned here between the pen. That attributes are actually color, size, and basically the company that differentiate both pens with each other. And behavior is that basically it helps us in writing. Now let's take an example for the rabbit. Here I have taken an example for the rabbit. So rabbit is an object. Assume that rabbit is an object, okay? And it has the following properties. Name, age, color. So this name, age, color, these three are acting as the attributes for the rabbit, okay? These are the things that a rabbit contains, right? These are the things that a rabbit contains. A rabbit has name, a rabbit has age, a rabbit has color. Same as when we talked about pen. So pen also has some color, pen also some has company name, pen also some has size, right? So that are the attributes which a object contributes, which a object has in it, okay? And what are the behavior of a rabbit? Rabbit runs, rabbit dance, basically it eats, right? These are the behavior of a rabbit. As same for the pen, that basically pen is like that helps in writing, right? So that is the behavior of the pen. So this is actually which we call as attributes and behavior in the term that is object. Okay, object has two things in it, two characteristics that are attributes and behavior. Now, basically the concept of OOPS, that is object-oriented programming in Python, focuses on creating reusable code. Okay, basically the code which we just create in object-oriented programming, that is actually a kind of reusable code. Okay, now this concept is also known as DRY, that is do not repeat yourself. Now what this actually means very in detail, that we are not going to discuss today. As we move further in this OOPS concept, then we'll be discussing all these things. Now basically here what I can say about the class, till now we had just discussed about the objects, right? Now what I get to say for the class, that a class is a blueprint for the object. For now, just understand, just remember this definition, that a class is a blueprint for the object. Okay, and now here we can just again an example that we can think of class as a sketch of a rabbit with labels. Right, as I just mentioned for the pen, so we can just think of a class as a sketch of a pen with labels, or as a sketch of a rabbit with labels. It contains all the details about the name, color, size, etc. Based on these descriptions, we can study about the rabbit. So a class actually consists of all the details from which we can study about a particular object. Okay, let's say my pen is my object. Okay, now pen, basically what are the details which we need to know about pen? The color of pen, the size of pen, the company of pen, right? So these are the things that I will be containing inside my class. So class is something, it is something like a sketch, or a sketch of pen, and basically it contains the descriptions. Okay, it contains the descriptions that helps us to study about the object. Same here, I have mentioned about the rabbit, that it contains all the details about the name, color, size, etc. Based on these descriptions, we can study about the rabbit. Right, so I hope now it is very clear to you that basically what is object-oriented programming language, and what is basically class, and what is an object. Right, so from today itself, I'm just moving towards my PyCharm IDE, and we'll be seeing some examples, some program, that how we to just try to make a class and object in Python programming. Fine. Basically, let's say the class that I had made here. So for that class, simply what I'd be using, I'd simply be using class. Okay. So class is one of the keywords that we use for making a class in Python. And the class that I'll be making is, let's say, pen. Okay. So after the class, I'll be writing the name of the class for that which I want to make, and that is pen. I would just calm down and simply I would just write pass here, because right now I'm just not gonna do anything inside the class. That all things we'll be seeing further. Right, now after making a class, if I just not written something inside my class, and if I just come out of my class, what is my very second step that I need to follow here? So the very second step that I need to follow here is that I need to make the object of this class. Okay, now my class is pen. Now the object for that class I need to make. Let's see, the one object I'll be making as black. Okay, let's say black is one of my object that I'll be making for my pen class. So for procedure for making the object, we simply write the name of that object which we want to make. Okay, we put the equal to sign, and after that we write the name of the class for which we are making the object. Okay, for I'm just making my object for pen, so I would just write black is equal to pen. Same for the blue. Let's say I just make two objects here, black and blue. Okay, so these are the two types of pen that I would be having, black pen and my blue pen. Now what next do I have? Now I need to store some attributes, some properties, right, that we had seen previously. I need to store some attributes. So how will I be doing that thing? So basically, if I need to add some attributes to my object, so in that procedure, I'll be adding first the name of my object. Okay, the name for my object is black, right? That I have added, that is black. Now I will put a dot. Now what attribute actually I just want to add here? So let's say I want to add the attribute that is name. Okay, that what is the name of that pen? Okay, black dot name. Fine. So this is the in the starting I have just added my object. I put a dot, and after that I just added my attribute, and that is equal to. And now here I'll be writing the answer for this thing that I have just done here. Okay. So let's say the name for my pen is, let's say, Pentonic. Okay, let's say Pentonic is one name of my black pen. Right. Now basically what the size it is having. Now it is basically of normal size. It is not too much large, and like not too much big, not too much small. For that I would again be using my black, because I'm just writing it for my black object, right? And the attribute is here size. So black dot size, and that I'll be writing here as, let's say, normal. Right. That is done. So let's say name and size. And now let's say I'll be taking one more quantity as one of my more attributes, that how many pen do I have, how many black pen do I have. Okay, I'm just writing the same case for my black object. So I'm writing simply black, put a dot, and now my attribute is quantity. Okay, quantity, and I'll be putting one equal to sign, and let's say quantity I'll be adding here 5. Let's say I have 5 black pens. Right. This is the procedure that I would be following for assigning some attributes to my object. Now same thing I'll be doing for my blue object also. I'll be writing here blue. Okay, blue dot name. If you just want to give some other attributes, you can give some other attributes. If you want to give the same attributes, you can give the same. That totally depends on you, that basically what you want to give here, right? So let's say blue dot name. Let's say the name for my pen is Parker. Okay, blue dot the blue pen which I'm having, the name for that pen is Parker, right? I would just come down. So okay, again I'll just use here blue. Blue is the name of my object on which I'm working, and the attribute which I'll be using here is size. Okay, now again I'll be just writing here as normal. Fine, again I'll be just writing the quantity. Quantity is my third attribute that I'll be using for my blue object. So blue dot, and here I'll be using quantity. Okay, quantity, right? And that is equal to, let's say I have 10. Okay, so here I have just mentioned all the objects and the attributes for that object. Right, now if I just want to see something in the output, let's say I just want to get the output from blue dot name, then how will I be doing that thing? Simply I'll be using my print statement, and inside that I'll be using blue dot name. Simply this is the procedure for getting the output. So I will just run it here and see now here. Basically what output did I got? I got the output here as Parker. Let me come down and show you this thing. So blue dot name was containing Parker in it, right? So I just got that Parker here. Now if I just want multiple outputs to come at a time, let's say I want to run blue dot name, and even I just want to run black dot name and all that thing, I would simply separate all of these things using a comma. So here I can just write that, let's say I will just write black dot let's say black dot size. Okay, and here I just put a comma, and here let's say I would just write blue dot quantity. Okay, yes, blue dot quantity. Now basically what I'll be just doing is that I would again be running it here for a while. Now have a look that basically what I just got here. Firstly what we had written, let me tell you that from here, blue dot name. So name for my blue dot name was Parker, right? That I have got. Black dot size. So size for black was normal. Okay, that is also fine. After that I have blue dot quantity. So the quantity for my blue pen was 10. Right, so that I have just got it here. Now this is basically how we can make the objects for the classes, right? Here I simply made one of my class. The name for that class was pen, and I did not wrote anything inside that class, so simply I used the pass. After that, I made two objects for my classes, for my class, that is pen, and that are black and blue. After that, I added several attributes to my class, that is pen. I added several attributes. Let's say that attributes are name, size, quantity. Right, now here basically one more thing comes. Let me quickly add that here, that if I do not give similar attributes to both of them. Let's say in the black object I have given 3 attributes, and let's say in the blue one if I give 4. So nothing will happen basically. Okay, that will not impact anything. Let me just give you an example here. So if I just write blue dot, and let's say basically I will be writing blue dot work. Okay, blue dot work. That basically what is the work for that? I'm just taking it for writing. Okay, WRITING. I just take it for writing, and basically here I'll be just like removing all of these things, and here I'd be adding blue, and I would just do here work. Okay, blue dot work, and now simply I would just run it. So basically I would not be getting any error here. Simply I would be just getting the output that it is having, that I'm having here, and that is writing. Okay, so this is the main procedure that we follow for making the objects and the attributes of that objects, right? There is no such rules, no such fast rule that basically if you are having three attributes in the first object, then you can make 3 attributes in the second also. No, you can make n number of attributes, whatever you just want in any of the objects. Right, so I hope this must be very clear to you that what actually object-oriented programming is, what are classes, what are objects, and how do we make the classes and objects in Python programming language. Right, so today we are going to see about the self and init. So basically self and init are called as the constructors. Now, what do I just mean from this term, that is constructors? What can I say that what is the definition for constructors? So just let me put a comment here, and here I would just write. Firstly, I would just let you know that what is a constructor. So giving arguments to a class is called as constructor. Okay, giving arguments to a class is called as constructor. So whenever we are giving any arguments to a class, whenever we are passing some arguments into the class, That is called as constructors. Now basically what do I just mean from the term that giving arguments to a class, that I would just show you with the help of an example. Okay, so for right now just pay proper attention towards the program which I am going to write now. Right, okay. So the first one is the self and second one is the init. We are going to discuss both of these today. Fine. For that, what will be my first step? So if I'm just discussing about the classes, the first step would be to make a class. So I would be taking the same class which we have seen previously, so that you basically do not get confused in the term. So here I have taken the class that is student. I would come down. I would make the class variable. So here I would make my class variable as number of subjects, okay, which we have done previously. So that is equal to 5. Let's say I just assign it a value as 5. Now, what init and self, these two are the constructors, right? So when you just want to declare the init, so we write the def, okay? Def is the function underscore underscore init. And whenever you will use the init function, self will automatically be passed inside that function. Okay, now just keep this thing in mind. Whenever you are making a class and inside that class you are using the constructor that is init, so basically self will automatically be passed as an argument, as a parameter inside the init function, right? I hope you are listening to me very carefully, so just listen it very carefully. I'm just again repeating, whenever you are going to make a class, so in that class basically what will happen, whenever you are just going to make the init function, so self will automatically be passed as an argument or basically as a parameter. Fine. This is about the init and the self functions, right? I would just come down here and here itself I would just write some values, right? So here I would just give as a name, comma, a standard. Basically I'm just giving it of my choice, whatever you just want, that you can just give it. Okay. Now here I have one more thing, one more question for you all, that basically let's say you have made a class that is a student, right? Now in that student class basically you want to enter the details for 10 students, okay, for 10 students. So what will you do? You will make the 10 objects. That is okay, till this point you can do. But what will you do when you need to write one dot name, one dot standard, one dot section, then two dot name, two dot standard, two dot section, moving towards the 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Will you be able to do that thing? No, that is not possible, right? Through manually it is absolutely not at all possible. Okay, you can do it for 10. What about 20, 30, 40, 50? What about these numbers? So in that case, basically this self and init functions are used. And at that place, we basically use the constructors, right? Now, how to use that thing? That I am just showing you right now. Okay. So just have a little bit of patience that what I am doing it is just properly see towards it. Okay. And even here, I have passed name standard, and here I would just pass the section. Okay. Come down. Here I would just use myself. So whenever we just declare the self, okay, whenever we just like write the init function and use the self, like pass the parameter as the self, so we always use the self to access the parameters which are present inside the init function. So here I would just write self dot name. Self dot name is equal to a name. Okay, so whenever you just want to declare the name, so at that place you will write self dot name is equal to a name. Self dot standard is equal to a standard, this one, okay, and at the third self dot section is equal to a section. That is done, right? So till now I have made my class, I have used my init and my self functions. That is okay. Now I would just come down here. I have declared the name section and standard. Now, if I just want to print all of these three, so in that case, what I would be doing? So in that case, I would be making one more function. Let's say that function is details. Now, just pay attention, pay proper attention towards the screen. Here, I have written def, then details. And as soon as I would just put the bracket, so self will automatically be passed inside that bracket. See, I put the bracket and self is automatically passed here, because I have used my init constructor here. Fine. So in this case, I would simply use my print statement and I would just use the f string. So here I would just write, okay, I would just write name of the student is, and in the bracket what I would be passing, I would be passing self dot name, because in that parameter only a name is stored, right? In this self dot name variable, this a name is stored, and a name is one of the parameters which I have argument which I have passed inside my function. So whatever the value I would be writing for it, that would point to self dot name. So I would be writing self dot name inside the bracket. Okay, so here I would be writing self dot name. Okay, I would just put a space here, I would put a comma, and then the standard is, and again the bracket, so here it will be self dot standard, and at last, and the section is, and in the bracket it would be self dot section. Okay, so self dot section, right? So here I just completed the sentence. I would just come back down here. Now I would just come down, and now I would make the object for my class. Now just pay attention towards it a little more. Let's say I made the object that is 1. Okay, I would use the name of my class, that is student. Now inside this student class, what I would be passing? I would be passing the name, the standard, and the section. So now I need not to write one dot name, one dot standard, one dot section. I need not to do that thing. Simply I would make the object of the class which I want, and inside my brackets for the class, I would be writing all the details. Now here these details. What the details which I'm going to write here, let's say that one is, first one is Ria, I would put a comma, first was name, second was standard, let's say 10th is the standard. Okay, and let's see the section, let's say section is A. Now where is this Ria pointing? This Ria is going and pointing to the A name. Okay, this A name is the one where this Ria is pointing, and that has been saved in self dot name. Okay, Ria has been now saved, Ria, the name that is here, that has been saved in the self dot name, because self dot name is equal to A name, and the string which I have passed for the A name is Ria, so it is automatically been saved in self dot name, and in the print statement which I have used in the details, right? So here self dot name is present, so at this place this will be override by the Ria. Fine. If I just want to make more objects, so what I would just do, I would just write 2 again, then I would again write the student class, and in the bracket I would again pass all the details whichever I want. This is the procedure. This one is easy, right? Now you just cannot do the previous thing for 20 or 50, but you can just do a little bit of thing for this one. This is much easier than the previous one. Okay, let's say I'm just making 2 here only. And now here in the print statement, if I just want to access the details, so I would just write print 1 dot details. Okay, now I would just run my program here for a while. So as soon as I just wrote print 1 dot details, so what it just let me go above now. Okay, so as soon as I just wrote that print the details for the 1. Okay, just let me come down here and show you that I had printed here print 1 dot details, right? As soon as I just do that, so it is giving me name of the student is Ria. So check, in 1 we have written the name as Ria. Fine. Come to the second. A comma, standard is 10. So in Ria we have entered the standard as 10. And for the third one, and the section is A. So for Ria we have entered the section as A. Fine. This is basically how you can just access these like things. And here if you just want to access only one element, then also you can just do that. So I would just comment the above one for a while here, and here let's say I want to access only one. I want to access only the name for the second object, that is 2. So I would just write 2 dot name, and when I would just run this program, it will result me as the output as Seema. Right, so Seema is the name which is stored in the 2, right? In the second object, Seema is the name that is stored. Fine. So this is basically how you can use the self and init functions. Now where I have made the constructor. Now just read the definition for a constructor. Giving arguments to a class is called as constructor. And now check the line number 14 and line number 15. These two lines. Here what I am doing. Student is the name of my class, right? And inside that what I am passing? I am passing the arguments. So what I am doing? I am giving the arguments to a class. And basically this procedure is called what? This procedure is actually called as constructors, right? So I hope I just made this thing very clear to you about the constructors, about the self, and about the init functions, right? This one term that is actually called as class variable. I'm going to tell you that actually what class variables means, how to declare a class variable. Can we change the value for class variables with the help of objects, or we cannot do that thing, right? So these are the things that we are going to discuss today. So let's get started with the things for now. So my very first step that I'm just going to do here is that I will be making a class for me, right? Because I want to declare a class variable. So the first step that we should do here is that making a class, right? So for making, I had already told you the procedure that we simply write the class and it is a keyword, okay? And in front of that, we basically write the name of the class, right? So here, let's say my class name is flower. Okay, let's say flower is one of the name of my class which I had just made here. Now, what we actually meant from the term, and that is class variable. Okay, let me quickly write your definition here. So class variables. Okay, so class variables are the variables that are okay, I just put in a comment. Okay, so class variables are the variables that are declared inside the class. Okay, so whenever we are just declaring any variable inside the class, okay, any variable and just giving it to some value, then that is actually called as a class variables. Okay, so the class variables are the variables that are always declared inside the class. As from the name only, we can just understand it in a way that the variables that are declared inside the class, it is called a class variable. Right. So after making my class, now what's my next step that I'm just going to do here is that I will be making one class variable for me. So I'll be writing, let's say, total underscore flowers. WERS. Okay. So let's say total underscore flowers is my class variable which I have made, and let's say I just assign the value as 10. Right. Now here this step which I had just done on line number 5, that is actually called as my class variable. Right, that is actually my class variable. And in the very first step, what I have done, I have declared my class. So I had just declared my class, right? So this is the thing that I have done. So I would simply write pass here and just come down onto the next lines. Now, basically in the next line, what is my procedure that I am going to apply? So I will be making some objects for my class, right? That is the second step which we do. After making the class and whatever we just want to write inside the class, we have done. After that, we just make the objects for our class, right? So here basically what everybody is doing is that, let's say the first object for my class is red. Okay. Red, let's say, is one of the objects that I have made for my class. So I would just write here red. And after that, I would just write here as flower. Okay, so this flower is the name of my class for which I have made the object that is red. Okay, other than that, let's say I just made one another which is white, and here I would just writing, let's say, flower. This is the another object which I have made for my class. And in the previous video itself, I had explained you that we can make n number of objects and we can give n number of attributes for a particular object, right? I have just discussed this thing in the previous video. So that is the same thing which I'm just mentioning here. Now what everybody is doing is that I would be making some attributes for my class. Okay, I'm just declaring some attributes of my class, sorry, of my object. So here, let's say red is my object, and here my first attribute, let's say red dot, and I would just write as count. Okay, let's say red dot count. So it means that basically what is the count of my red flowers that I am having, right? So this is red is my object for which I had made an attribute, and that is count, right? So let's say I just assigned the value as 15. Okay, after that I would just write red dot price. So here I would just write that what is the costing of the red flowers that you are taking. Let's say I just write it as 100. Okay, now let's say these are the two attributes which I have given onto this flower class, okay, for my red object. Come down. Now my second step is that I will be making using my another variable, let's say that is white. Okay, white. I would just put here a dot, and let's say for this also we just give a count. Let's say here I'm just giving 12. Fine. And what the price, let's say white dot price is equal to, and let's say the price would be 150. Okay, now if I just want to make some other attributes in this white object as well, so I can just do, let's say I just made an object that's let's say white dot a day. So it means that basically on which day I can just get my white flash. So let's say it is, I would just mention here as Monday. Right, so let's say Monday is a day on which I can just get my white flash. So I can just declare n number of attributes for n number of objects, whatever I have made for my class. Now, if I just want to access these, so for accessing it is very simple. I will just simply write my print statement, and inside that print statement I would, let's say I just want to access my red dot count. I would just write it like this, and I would just run my program here. Right, so here I'm just getting 15. Fine. Now, second thing, if I just want to access multiple objects with multiple attributes in one single print statement, okay, so I could just put one comma, and let's say I just write white dot day. Okay, I can just put n number of commas and add whatever the things I just want here. Right, so let's say it is giving me 15 and then Monday. Right, so here after this thing what comes is discussion about my class variable. Now if I just want to access my class variable, so how will I be accessing my class variable? So I can write one of my print statements. Okay, let's say this is my print statement in which I am just writing. So inside this print statement, what I can just do is that I can give the names for, like, I can just use the name of my class, and I can just after name of my class I can just use the name of the class variable. Let me give you an example here. Let's say name for my class is flower, right? I'll just write a flower dot, and the name for that class object was total flowers, right? Sorry, class variable was total flowers, right? So if we just want to access any class variable, so what procedure will I be following? I'll be simply writing my first print statement. Okay, after that, second step that comes here is that inside the brackets I just need to write out the name for my class. Let's say here it is flower. Okay, so I have just done that thing. I would put a dot, and after putting that dot I need to write the name of the class variable for which I am looking for. Right, so that is total underscore class in our case. Right, now what I would just do, I would just run this program here. See, now just have a look over the here. I just got the answer, and that is 10. So why I am just getting this? So just have a look that the total number of flowers, total underscore flowers, that was my class variable. In that I have stored a value, that is 10. Fine. Now, this is the one thing that how you can just make a class variable and how you can just access it. Now, my second thing that comes here is that can I change the value for my class variable? Okay, let's say here what I have just done. I have given the value as 10 to my class variable, right? Now, if I just want to change this value for my class variable, so can I do this, and can I access my class variables with the help of these objects? Can I do that thing? This is the question that comes to next, and yes, the answer for this one is yes, that yes, we can access the class variable with the help of our objects. Let me show you an example here. Let me quickly comment out this print statement, and on to next line I would simply write here print. Okay, now inside the print, let's say I just wrote any let's say red. I would put a dot, and I would just use total underscore flower. So right, red is the object which we had made for the class, that is flower, right? And total underscore flowers is the name of the class variable which I had made inside our class. Right, now we just run it here. Okay, I'm just sorry, I just like clicked on the debug. Let me just quickly close this here for a while, and yes, terminate. Right, now I would just run my program here for a while. Now again have a look that I just got the same answer, that is 10. As I mentioned that yes, we can access the class variables with the help of the objects also. So that is the reason that it is giving me the answer here as 10. Now the third thing that comes here is that basically if I want to change the value of the class variables, right? So basically can I just do that thing with the help of my object of the class or not? So again the answer is yes. We can change the value for the class variable with the help of object. Let me show you an example. So if you write here white, okay, white dot, and I just wrote here that that total underscore flowers. Okay, total underscore flowers. Okay, white dot total underscore flower. Let's say this is the yes, the total underscore flowers was a variable, right? That was our class variable, and white was one of the objects in them. Right, so if I just wrote those things, and now what I am just doing is that above I have given the value as 10. Let's say I just give it as 20. Right, now after this step, when I would be just printing my total underscore flowers, right? Let's say I just wrote to white dot total underscore flowers, and now when I would be just running it here, so the value for my class variable would be changed, and now I'd be just getting here the answer as 20. Right, so here actually what I just wanted to convey is that if you want to change the value of the class variable with the help of an object, then yes, you can do that thing. You are not restricted that you cannot just do that thing, you can. Okay, so this is the idea about using the class variables. And now after commenting out, okay, I will just not comment, I would simply write here print, and basically I would just write the real name of my class, that is flower, and I would just write total underscore flowers. Now if I just run this program here for a while, now just have a look that the value which we had given, okay, that white and dot total underscore flower, the value which we had given, that has only been changed when I just use white dot total underscore flowers. It is not changed for whole time. Let's say if I just access this total underscore flower, that is my class variable, with the help of my class, then it will give me the real answer which I have stored in my class variable, which is declared inside the class. And when I would just run that white dot total flowers, in that case it will give me the output, that is 20, because here I have just changed the value and I had just made the value for my class variable as 20. Right, so I hope you just got the idea that basically how this class variable actually works and what are the concepts which are in class variables. What is a class variable? Can we change the value of class variable? Then yes, then how? And we can just like, can we access the value of the class variable with the objects and all that things, right? Let me just quickly write down that topic here, so that I can just tell you about this topic further, right? So this is a topic which we are just going to discuss today in advanced Python programming, and that is inheritance. Now, what we actually mean from it, right? And basically, so it is actually in terms of programming language, if I say, okay, if I just like talk about in terms of programming language, so it actually means that basically, let's say we are having a class, right? So in advanced Python, we have topic that is OOPS, right? That is object-oriented programming. So in that, basically, we deal with the classes and objects. So let's say there is a class, and that class basically inherits and basically like access and have the properties of any other class. That is actually what we call as inheritance, right? Now let me just quickly define it, like just tell you that basically how many types of inheritance we have in Python programming. After that, I will just move on to the PyCharm ID and then just let you know about the program. Right, so very first type of inheritance that we have in Python programming is single inheritance. Okay, single, and I would just write here inherit, inheritance. Okay, this is the very first type of inheritance that we have in Python programming. Right, now moving towards the second, we have multiple inheritance. Okay, I would simply write multiple. I would just not write the whole spelling here. That one is multiple. And moving towards the third, I have multi-level. Right, so these are the three types of inheritance that we have in Python programming. Now, turn by turn, we'll be seeing that basically how we just do the single inheritance in Python programming, how we do multiple, how we do multi-level, along with that things you'll be seeing here, right? So what I would just doing is that I would just go to my PyCharm IDE here, and I would just go to my folder where I just like to write all the programs and start making a folder here for discussion of the topic, and that is basically my single inheritance. Let me quickly write out the single, and here I would just write out inheritance. Right. So here in this file, I would just let you know that basically how we can just like start and how we can just write the program for single inheritance. Right. Now, as I just mentioned that inheritance actually means from having one properties of a class onto another class, right? So it is mandatory to make some classes because the inheritance things works on the classes, right? So let's say here I just make a class, and that class is, let's say, flower. Okay, let's say flower is a class which I have made here. Now what I can just do here is that inside this, let's say I just want to make some a function. Okay, I just want to make some function. So I would just write here def, and let's say the function name is type. Okay, let's say type is the name of the function which I would just make here. Right, and the self will automatically be passed because this is a class, and inside class whenever we just declare a function, so self is automatically passed on to that. Right. Now, basically, let's say inside this, I start writing a print statement, and into that print statement, let's say I write that this is, let me just write here, this is a red flower. Right, so here I had just made one class and that class is flower actually, right? Flower is the name of the class that I have made. After that, inside that flower class, I had simply made a function, right? That function name is type, correct? So inside that type, the self is automatically passed because I had made this function inside the class. So inside a class, whenever we just make a function, so self is automatically passed in between that function. Right, after that I had simply used a like written a print statement, and that is this is a red flag. Okay, let's say this is the class which I have made. Now basically I would be just going on to the next line, let's say here. Okay, now let's say here I just make another class. So let's say first was flower and second let's say I would just make as let's say plant. Okay, plant is the another class which I have made here. Now I would just put the brackets here, and inside the bracket, now when I write here as flower, this step, this procedure which I have just done here right now, this is actually what we call as single inheritance. Okay, this is the time and this is the place where we just can say that okay, I am just doing here as single inheritance. Let me just quickly write out and then I will just explain you that why I am just saying this thing. Right, so I just wrote that single inheritance here. Now here what I had just done, I had taken my plant class, right? That was a class which I have made and this was plant, right? Inside that plant class, what I had done, I had passed my another class, and that is flower. Right, this one is my flower class, right, which I had made above. I just passed that here. Now the plant class which I had made here, right, this plant class which I have made here, now this plant class will be having the properties of this plant class as well and this flower class as well, because I have mentioned this flower class in the between, like in the middle of the bracket of the plant class. So it means now if I just want to access any element from the of the flower class with the help of plant class, then I would be able to do that thing, because here I have applied the technique and that is single inheritance, right? Now, moving on to the next procedure, I would just like again just write some functions here. So I would just write, let's say div, and first one I had made type. Let's say here I just made a color, okay? And in bracket, oh sorry, in bracket self will automatically be passed. I would just come on to the next line and simply write here my print statement, print, and I would just write here, let me just write here, this is red color, okay? Let's say I just write here, this is red color, right? Even I had just made out my second class, and in that second class I have just done the inheritance of my first class. Okay, so whenever we just inherit a class into another class, that procedure is called a single inheritance. Let me quickly write the definition also. So put a comment here, and I would just write here, when we inherit a class into another class, that procedure is known as single inheritance. Okay, single inheritance, right? So when we just when we just inherit a single class into another class, that is called single inheritance. Now I have just done that thing here, I have applied that procedure. Now what I am just doing is that I will be making the object. Now, I would here not make the object for flower class as well as for the plant class. I would not make the object for both of the classes. I would simply make the object for any one class here, and let's say that is plant. Okay, I would simply make the object for my plant class. Why not flower? Because if I want to now access anything of my flower class, I can simply access that thing through the help of my object of the plant class. Why? Because here I have applied the procedure of the single inheritance, right? Whatever the properties were in the flower class, now that all have come into the plant class as well, right? So here I would just simply make an object, and let's say that object is small. Okay, let's say small is the object which I had made, and that I would be making for my plant class, right? So this is the thing that I have done. Small is the name of the object and plant is the class for which I have made the object. Now if I want to access the function, this function, that is this type function and this color function, using the object of my plant class, so will I be able to do so? Yes, you can do that thing. You can access the functions of the flower class as well as a function of the plant class with the help of the object of only and only plant class. Now here you need not to make different objects for different classes and then use the same object name with the same class and all that things. That procedures need not to be followed here. Simply what we need to do is that simply we need to make one object of the class in which we have inherited the another class, and we just simply need to call out the function. So here I would just first of all I would just do it for color. So small dot, and I would just write here as color, and now I would just run my program here for a while. So yeah, so here what I had just got here, this is red color. Okay, this is red color. This is the output which I have got here, because here I had simply used the small dot color, right? So small dot color was simply having this statement in it, that is this is red color, right? Now what I would be just doing here is that I would simply write a small dot, and now I would just write the function that is type also. Okay, and now if I just run it again once, now have a look that what output I'm just getting. Let me just come down here. Yes, basically now I'm just getting both the outputs, that is this is red color and this is a red flower. So this is red color is basically of my function that is color, and basically this is a red flower is a statement which is in my function that is type, right? So this type function which I have just used here, I have accessed this type function with the help of the object of my plant class, and yes, it is basically accessed, and yes, I'm here getting the output, right? So from here I would just like to say that basically in single inheritance, like in all the inheritance, the technique actually follows, right? This is the same thing in all the inheritance, that the class in which you have inherited the another class. So if you just make the object of that class and try to access the functions of another class and that class with the help of that object, then you will be able to do so, right? So here it depends that basically which is the class you have made and what is the like class which you have inherited into this class. So as soon as you have completed the procedure, after that one you have just make that like object of the class in which you have inherited the other one. So simply you can just do that thing, and after that you can just use any of the function with the help of this object. Right, so I hope I just made this thing very clear to you, that how you can just apply the single inheritance sentences, and basically how we just like write a program if we just want to write a program for multiple inheritance, and how we're just going to do that thing, right? So these are the things that we are going to follow today. So let's get started here. So basically here we are just discussing these topics under the topic that is classes, right? That is object-oriented programming language. So if we are just discussing this topic under the classes, so basically what I just need to do is that whenever I just need to do inheritance, so for that I just need to declare a class, right? Let's say my class name is flower. Okay, let's say this is the class that I have made and it is a flower, right? I would just come down to the like inside the flower class, and here I would just make a function. Let's say my function name is category. Fine, let's category is the name of my function, and I will just put the brackets, and the self has automatically be passed here because I am declaring a function inside my class, right? So in that case self has automatically been passed here. Now what next I do I have? So I can add a print statement inside this function that is category, and let's say I would just write that it is a, let's say I would just write it is a sunflower. Okay, it is a sunflower. Okay, right, this is a sentence which I have just written here, and I will just come out of my function and even out of my class, right? Till now I had just made a class, and that class is actually my flower class. Okay, after that I had made a function inside that class, and it is category. Okay, inside that function I simply printed a statement that is it is a sunflower. Now coming on to the next procedure, I would again declare one class. Let's say now that class is, let's say, my plant class. Okay, I would again put the colon, come on to the next line, define a function here. Let's say I would just write here the function as type. Okay, let's say type, and self has automatically been passed here, and I would simply add my print statement here. Print, and basically in the bracket, let's say I would be writing that this, okay, just let me quickly write it correctly. This is a, let's say, small plant. Okay, this is a small plant. Fine. Now basically what I can just do here now, I would be just applying my technique for doing out the multiple inheritance. So basically what I just mean from multiple inheritance. So I can say that a class having the properties of two or more than two classes is called a multiple inheritance. When we inherit a class, okay, sorry, when we inherit two or more than classes, okay, two or more classes into a single class, so that is called as multiple inheritance. So I would just write out a definition here as well, that when we inherit, okay, that I would just simply write, when we inherit, two or more classes into a, and I would just put again a hash here, into a single class, that is known as multiple and then inheritance. Fine. This is the definition that we have here for the multiple inheritance, and that is that when we inherit two or more classes into a single class, that is called as multiple inheritance, right? So here basically I have? So I have two classes here, right? One is my flower class and another is my plant class. Now the next thing that I'm just going to do here is that I'm just going to declare one more class, and inside that class I'm just going to like inherit this flower and the plant class. Let me show you that thing. So let's say I just declared a class. Let's say the name for the class is purchaser. Fine. And in the bracket I would just inherit my both of the classes. First one is my plant class and second one is my flower class, right? So this step which I had just written right now on the line number 11. Okay, let me come down here. This step is actually called as multiple inheritance. Okay, this is the line where I have performed the multiple inheritance. So now inside this I would again just declare a function. Let's say my function is let's say final. Okay, I would put the bracket and self will automatically be passed. Then inside the print statement, basically what I would be just doing, I'd be writing that let's say I want flower as well as plant. Okay, I want flower as well as plant. Fine. So this is basically how we just do the multiple inheritance. Let me quickly explain you that here in this line what I have done. So I had made one of my class, that is purchaser class. Okay. Now this purchaser class will be having its own property, that is final function. Okay. Inside this purchaser class I had defined its own function, that is final. And inside that I just added a printf statement. Now in this purchaser class, what I have done is that I have inherited a plant class and a flower class. Now, whatever the properties were associated, whatever the functions were associated with the plant and flower class. Now, my purchaser class is having all the rights to access those functions and to use those functions, because what I have done, I have applied my multiple inheritance here. So because of that, whatever the properties, whatever the functions, whatever the things I was having inside my plant and my flower class, so both of these have come onto my purchaser class as well. So let's do one thing. Let's make the object for the class here, and after that I would just like try to run it and show you that how it actually works, right? So let's see the object which I had made here. Let's say white. Okay, let's say white is the object which I had made here, and the class for which I will be making the object is purchaser class, because here I will be making the class, I will be making it for the class in which I had inherited this plant and the flower class, right? So I just made here white is equal to purchaser. Now with the help of my object for my class, that is purchaser, I would just write the object here, that is white, and I would try to access the type, and I would try to access all the three functions, so that will category, type and final. Okay, so on the first line it would be here as category, then coming on to the next line it would be white dot final, and basically at the last line it would be white dot, and here it would be type, right? So these are the three functions, and now I would just run my program here once again for a while, and let's show you. So see, now basically here what output I am getting the first output as it is a sunflower. After that I am getting I want flower as well as plant, and this is a small plant. Let me just like decrease it a little bit and show you that basically is this all the things which I like got here as an output, are they matching to the real program or not? So what I had just used here, the first one I had used here is category, then final and then type. Go on to the category. Right, so flower is the class in which I am having the category as a function, and inside this it is written as it is a sunflower, right? Okay, after category I had used final. So purchaser class, inside this class I had the final function, and inside this it is written I want flower as well as plant. Yes, that also I got. And at the third I had written type, right? So type was a function which was declared inside the plant class, right? So inside that it was written this is a small plant. Right, so these are the like functions which we had like used. Right now we had accessed all of these functions using the object of the purchaser class, and all this was possible because I have inherited the plant and the flower class into the purchaser class. If I haven't done this thing, if I haven't like applied this procedure, then basically it will show me errors, it will not execute. Let me show you, let me quickly like erase out these brackets. Okay, and now I would just run out my program here. See, basically it is giving me some error, and that it is that purchaser object has no attribute category, right? So we cannot now access the functions which I have inside the flower class and inside the plant class. So if you just want to use out both of those, then what we just need to do is that we just need to call out the like just inherit the flower and the plant class here. Okay, now here one more concept comes, that if all the functions, like the functions which I had made here, if all of the functions are having the same name, okay, for the all the name which we are having basically here, all of them, if they have the same name, same function name, okay, then what will happen? So let me just do one thing. Let me change these two functions to the name as type which is already declared. Okay, this all type is already we are having in the purchaser class. Okay, in the plant class we are having, so I would just make it to purchaser for type. Now the case is that all the three classes which we had made here, all the three classes are having their name of the function as same. Right, now if I just like try to remove this, and if I just try to write a white dot type, and now if I just run it, so now have a look that basically what output will I be getting? I'll be getting that I want flower as well as plant. Now why I am just getting this answer? Because two other are also having the same name, but why only one? Because now the like the control of the program, the execution of the program will like run from the downside, it will go from the down till above. So as soon as it go to my class purchaser, because this was the first class which is present from the downside, right? It gone to my purchaser class, and inside my purchaser class it found a function, and that is type, right? It found that function that was type. So inside that type, it simply found that it was written that I want flower as well as plant. So it simply stopped at that point and simply printed me the answer, that is I want flower as well as plant, right? So this is the whole concept which comes under the multiple inheritance topic, right? I have just explained you that basically when we inherit two or more classes into a single class, that is basically called as multiple inheritance. After that, I have declared the classes, made the functions, and in the line number 11, this place I had just applied the multiple inheritance and even showed you the examples, right? So this is that basically what is multi-level inheritance and how we just do that thing in the Python programming language, right? So first of all, what I would be just doing is that I would be making a class here, right? So I would be just, let's say the name for my class is mother. So I would just write here mother. Okay, this is my class which I had made here. Okay, now inside this class basically what I would be just doing is that I would be passing on to, let's say, I'll be making a class variable. You all remember the class variable concept, right? So we had already discussed this class variable in the previous videos. So I would just like make a class variable, and let's say that class variable is underscore badminton. Okay, let's say this is the variable which I had made here, and let's say here I just write 2. So let's say it actually means that I had a class mother, and in that like my mother plays badminton 2 hours, right? Let's say this is the concept which you can just take it from here. Okay. After the class mother, let's say I just like declare a class that is daughter. Okay, now basically in multi-level inheritance what is done, okay, we have one class, okay, that one class is inherited onto the second class. Okay, now that second class is being inherited into the third class, that third class is inherited into the fourth class, and this procedure goes on. So basically what happens that n number of classes are inherited inside n number of classes, right? So let's say here I just took the example. Now here what I just said right now, that one class is being inherited into the second class. Let me just like write this thing here, that in okay, let me write out the procedure. Let me just put out the uh, three codes here. Inside that I would just add that in multi-level inheritance, in multi-level, and here I would just write in multi-level inheritance, the first class, okay, the first class is inherited to second class. Okay, this is the first thing in multiple inheritance. The first class is inherited to second class. Now, after that, comma, the second class is being inherited to third class. To third class. Okay. Now, third to fourth class, and this procedure goes on and on. Fine. This is actually what we call as multi-level inheritance. That in multi-level inheritance, the first class is inherited to second class is being inherited to the third class, third to fourth, fourth to fifth, and this procedure goes on till the point you are just making the classes. Right, this is actually what we describe and what we say as multi-level. Now let me just quickly put out the colon here, and inside this let me inherit my first class, and that of my first class is my mother class. Right, inside this again I would, let's say, just declare is underscore, and I would just write, let's say, is underscore badminton. Okay, it's underscore badminton. Yes, and for this, let's say I just wrote here the value as 3. Now, even if I just want to declare some function also inside this, that also works. Let's say I just declare a function def, and here I would just, let's say, play. Okay, now inside this, even I just want to write out the print statement. Let's say that print statement is that I play 3 hours 3 hours a day. Fine. So that also I can just apply here. Now what next here we have? I need to declare my third class. Fine. We had declared the first class and then second class. So inside the second class, I have inherited my first class. Now inside my third class, I would be inheriting my second class. Okay. So let's say my third class is granddaughter. With G-R-A-N-D, granddaughter. Fine. And inside this, basically, I would be inheriting my daughter class, right? So this is actually what I am applying here as multi-level inheritance, right? Again, if I just write here is underscore badminton is equal to, now let's say here I just wrote 4. Again, I would just make one function here. Let's say now this function is def is underscore play, okay? Self has automatically be passed, and here simply I can just write a print statement, and that print statement is I play, let's say I play 4 hours a day. Okay, so this is basically what I have just added here. So what I mentioned in the definition was that in multi-level inheritance, the first class is inherited to the second class. The second class is being inherited to the third to fourth, and this procedure continues on. Now try to understand the things that I'm telling you right now very clearly. That I had made a mother class. Okay, inside that I had declared a class variable, that is okay. After that, what I have done, I have declared a daughter class, right? Now inside that daughter class, I have declared the mother class. So this actually what means? This means that my daughter class, which I have just taken here, that would be having the properties of my daughter class and of my mother class as well. Why? Because I have inherited my mother class into my daughter class. So my daughter class will be having its own properties. That is okay. Its own properties like, let's say, its own function, its own variable. But what it will be having? It will even be having some properties of this mother class. Fine. Now, come on to the third procedure, that is granddaughter class. I had made a granddaughter class, and inside that I had inherited daughter. Now, so my granddaughter class indirectly would be having the excess of my daughter class as well as my mother class. Now, it will be having the properties of my mother class as well. Why? Because my daughter class, because I have inherited my mother class into my daughter class, and that daughter class I am inheriting into the granddaughter class. So this is actually what is happening now. My granddaughter class, which I have declared at the last, this granddaughter class will be having its own properties. Okay, granddaughter class will be having its own properties, the properties of my daughter class, even the properties of my mother class. Right. So this is the procedure that is being followed here. Now what I will be just doing is that I will be just going here, and let's see here I will just making the object for all the three now different. Now the object will not be remain same. Okay, Let's say for my mother class, I had made the object that is 1. Okay. For my daughter class, let's say I would just make the object that is 2. And let's say 3 is the object that I will be making for my, let's say, granddaughter class. Right. So these are the things, 3 things which I had made. I had made object 1 for my mother class, object 2 for my daughter class, and object 3 for my granddaughter class. Now, if I just want to access anything from any class, then I would be able to do that thing, right? I could simply just write here, let's say, I can simply write not 1, I would just write here 2 dot and let's say play. Okay, 2 dot play. And now if I just run out my program here, basically see what output I am getting. Just let me show you that thing here. So the output that I am getting here, that I play 3 hours a day. Right, and just come above here and just check out that inside my play statement what I have written. I have written I play 3 hours a day. Right, so that thing I have just done it here. Now what comes here, like other things that come here, let me just quickly comment out this thing here. Now what else I can just do here from here is that I can just add on my print statement, and inside that print statement, if I just want to access any variable, any class variable with the help of the object, so I would be just seeing that thing also. Let's say I just wrote 2 dot and here I just add daughter. Okay, 2 dot daughter. Okay, that is not, okay, that is not daughter. So it is basically 2 dot and is underscore badminton. Badminton, the name for my class variable. So if I just write print 2 dot is badminton, so in that case basically this is being like running and this is giving me the answer as 3. Now what if I just try to access any other, like any other class with any other function? Okay, let me give you an example here. Let's say if I just try to access the three object, the object that is 3, which is of my granddaughter class, and I want to access the function of my daughter class. Okay, I'm taking the object for my granddaughter class and I'm taking the function for my daughter class. Now basically let's see what will be happening here. So again, just have a look that I got the output which was expected, and I played 3 hours a day. So check out my play function, what it is written inside that. Inside this it is written I play 3 hours a day. Right, so that has came because here basically what I have done, I have inherited one class onto the another, right? So let's say this mother class which I had made, I had this mother class which I had made, I had inherited this into the daughter class. So it will be containing the properties of both the classes, right? My daughter class as well as my mother class. Next, what I have done, I have inherited the daughter class onto my granddaughter class. So now this granddaughter class which I had just made here, this will be having the variables, the functions, the properties of my daughter class and as well as of my mother class. So when I had just tried to access the object of my third class, that is 3, with the help of the function of my daughter class, so it basically did not give me any error or something like that. It simply gave me the output. Let me show you this thing once again. Let's say 1 is the object for my mother class, right? I just wrote that thing. And if I just try to access this, okay, what was the function? That was, I guess, is play for my granddaughter class. Yes. So I would just write 1 dot is underscore play, right? And I would just put the bracket and I would just write this thing and run it here. So again, I'll be just getting, okay, mother object has no attribute is play. Let me just check it out here. Okay, so basically it is saying that mother object has no attribute, that is dot play, because why it is giving me this thing? It is giving me this thing because I have directly not inherited this mother class inside the granddaughter class. If I have done that thing directly, then it would have given me the answer. But when I haven't done this thing directly, so it is giving me the error, right? This is the procedure which we actually follows here, and this is the thing that we actually follow here, right? So this is basically how we just do the multi-level inheritance. So in multi-level inheritance, the first class is inherited to second class, second is being inherited to the third, and third is being inherited to the fourth, and it basically this cycle goes and continues on. Right, so I hope you have got a fair idea that basically what happens in the multi-level inheritance, right? Now today we are going to see 3 types of variables that are public, protected and private, right? These 3 are the variables that we are going to see, and then we are going to see that how to access these using the classes. So what I would just do here for a while is that I would just put on these three semicolons, and inside this I would firstly let you know that what actually I mean from public. Public are the variables, are the variables which anyone can use. Anyone from anyone, sense I just mean that the class can also use as well as the child class can also use. Okay. So for the public, basically what I just say that public variables are the accessible variables. Accessible variables. It means you can just access these public variables from anything that is either class or the child class. Right. Second, basically I have here that is protected. Now, protected variables are the variables which can only be accessed with the help of okay, I would just write here exist, A-double-C-E-double-S-E-D. I would just write it exist with the child class. Okay, so protected variables are the variables which can only be accessed with the child class. And what about the private variables? So private variables are the variables which can only be exist with the class name. Other than this, nothing like none of the variables on any other class cannot access this. Okay, the private variables which we have here that can only and only be accessed with the name of the class. Right. So just let me quickly take a quick revision about all the three which I have discussed right now. So public variables are the variables which can be accessed from the class as well as and from the child class. So protected variables are the variables which can be accessed only and only with the child class, right? And private variables are the variables which can only and only be accessed with the class name. Right. Now, basically, how to declare these things inside the class, let me show you that thing, right? So, I would just make a class here. Let's say my class name is a student. Okay, let's say this is student is a class which I had made here. So, inside this, now let's say I just make a variable that is number underscore of underscore subject, right? Let's say this is the name of the variable which I had made. And let's say I just assign this a value as 5. Okay, so now basically what is this? This is actually my public variable. Public variable means this is a class variable. So for the class variables, we can say the public variable is another name for the class variable, okay? Because these can be accessed with the help of the class and from the help of the object as well. As I have shown you this example in the very first video, in the very second video when I have discussed about the class variables, right? That I have shown that you can access a class variable with the help of the object name and even with the help of the class as well. So that is the why these class variables are actually called as the public variables. Now, procedure for declaring a protected variable is that firstly you need to put a underscore, that is mandatory. So whenever we just put one single underscore, so we automatically this Python programming language understands that okay, at this place you are declaring a protected variable, right? I would just write underscore and in front of that I would write PROT. That means I'm just declaring a protected variable, and let's say I just assign it a value as let's say 4. Okay. Now if I just want to declare a private variable, so private variables are the variables that can only be accessed with the help of the class name, right? I want to declare that. So whenever we are just using two underscores, okay, whenever we are just using two underscore and simply writing PRI, so this means that here I am declaring a private variable. So number of subjects is my public variable. Then basically this underscore PROT is my protected variable and underscore PRI is basically my private variable. Let me just quickly write out that thing here. So this one is the protected variable and basically this one is my private variable. Okay, that I have just written here. Okay. Come on to the next line, and basically here I would just define a function. Let's say that okay, that was with def underscore init, and inside this I would just pass it as a name, and even I would just pass, let's say, a name I have done. After that I would just pass a class. Okay, okay, I will just not pass class because otherwise this will actually relate to the class keyword which we are using. I would simply pass say the okay, just 1 second. Right, I would simply write here a marks, okay, a marks, and after that let's say I would just declare a standard. That would be okay, right? So these three are the things which I have declared here. So what I would be just doing is that I'll be writing self dot name is equal to a name, right? After that I'll be writing self dot marks is equal to a marks, right? And after that I'll be writing self dot standard, right? Standard is equal to a standard. Fine. These three are the variables which I have taken here. So parameters which I had passed inside the function are a name, a marks, and a standard. Okay. And these three are basically referring to the name, marks, and standard which will be making the object and storing inside them. Okay. That I have just done till now. So this is all. Okay, right. Now what I would just do is that I would just come out of this function and I would just make one more function, and that function is, let's say, details. Okay, because even if I just making a function, so what I would just do is that I even want to print the whole statement, okay, for this. So I would just use my return statement here, and with that return I would use my f string, because what I would just want, the format which I want to be displayed here as an output is that basically, let's say if I just write name is, so in between after that name is, this name should be present whatever I am entering. After that, let's say marks are, that marks should be present whatever I am entering here, right? So I want the things to be in this format. So for that only I am simply passing here the f string. So I would just write name is, and in the bracket the variable in which I have stored the name. So that is self dot name. Self dot name. Right. So I would just put a comma. I would just write here marks are, and again in the curly brackets I would add here self dot marks. Okay. And basically coming out and at the last I would just write here, and I would just write here standard is, again I would put the curly bracket, and inside the bracket I would just write self dot standard. Right, so these are the things that I have made here, and this is the function which I had done. So after this, my next step would be I would be coming out of my function and making an object. Let's say my object is 1. Okay, so 1 is my object, so 1 is equal to, and let's say student was my class, so I just made this object for my student class, right? Now what I can just do is that if I just want to run 1 dot details, okay, before inside this student class as well I would just write the uh, details whichever I just want. Let's say name, marks, and standard. So let's say name is, let's say Ria. Okay, let's say name is Ria, and the marks are, let's say 65, and the standard is, let's say 11th, right? These are three details which I mentioned. After this I would simply print, and here I would just write 1 dot details, right? And I'll just put the bracket and now run it here. So let me show you that what output we'll be getting. So the output which I'm just getting is like looking nicer. So that is name is Ria, marks are 65, and standard is 11, right? So this was the reason that I just passed that f string here, because I wanted the output to come into this way. If you do not want this, you can just simply remove this f string and simply return a statement, okay? Now, what we were discussing about was the public, protected, and private. Now, if I just want to access my public variable with the help of the object, so I would be able to do that thing. Okay, so if I just write out the print statement here, and inside that, if I just write 1 dot, and my variable is number of subjects, right? This is a variable, class variable, and that is the public same as well, right? I would just run it here. So after running, see what output I am getting. I am getting the output that is 5. So this is the required output that I have entered here as a value for my variable, right? So this, as I mentioned, that public variable can be accessed with the help of the class and with the help of the object as well. So if instead of 1, if I just simply write here student, okay, if I write here student and then run, then basically it will again run and it will be showing me the same output which we have seen previously, that was 5. Okay, so it can be accessed with the help of the class or with the help of the object as well. So we just call that object as child class as well. Okay, now moving towards my protected variable. So definition which I just told about the protected variable was we can access the protected variables with the help of the child class only. Child class means with the help of the object only. If I just write here 1 dot underscore PROT, this was how we have declared, right? And now if I just run this program here, So have a look that what output I am getting. I am getting the answer here as 4. Let's go above and verify it. So here underscore PROT was having a value which is 4, and this was my protected variable, right? So that I just got here. Now instead of this one, if I just write here the name of my class, okay? If I just write the name of my class, and now if I just run it here, then also I'm just getting the answer here as 4. So even this can be accessed with the help of the name of the class as well. Now what actually comes here is that if I simply try to access this thing with the help of, like if I just try to access this thing with my public class, sorry, with my private variable, okay, what will I do here is that I will simply write out the printf statement, and if I just write here one dot, and here I just write underscore underscore, okay, private variables can be accessed with the help of the class, right? So if I just write here student and dot, and if I just write here underscore underscore, and if I just write PR I, that is my private variable, right? And now if I just run it here, so basically now, okay, so here I am getting an output that type of object student has no attribute PRI. Now why I am getting here? So basically here I would introduce you to a new term, and that term is basically called as name mangling. Let me quickly write out this statement here, that is name mangling, right? So what does this name mangling actually means? This means that whenever I just try to access my private variable of my class with the help of my name class, it will show me some error like this, because I need to add, like I need to use a different way, different procedure here. That is the reason that it was showing me. Okay, so I need to put one underscore in front of my like this function, this name of the class as well. Okay, I need to put the one underscore in front of my class as well, that is underscore student, and I need to write the name of the object as well. Okay, it is saying that it has no object, that is attribute. Let me just quickly remove this thing from here, and now let me just quickly run out. Okay, let me just go above once and check out the name for my class, that is a student underscore underscore PRI. Yes, so now basically just let me quickly do this thing here, and let me, okay, I would just write, remove it from here, and now if I just run it and put this underscore here, and now if I just run it, try running it, see, now here I just got the output, and that is 3. So basically that dot need not to be like put here, we just do not need to put any dot at this place. Okay, so this is basically how we access the private variable. So whenever we just apply this procedure, that is first you need to write the name of the object, after that you need to put a dot, you need to write underscore, then the class name, and then double underscore PRI, that is basically my private variable, right? So whenever we just try on this thing, so this is actually called as name mangling. So name mangling actually refers that, let's say you have declared a private variable, so this will not be accessed so much easily, that let's say you are just writing something and instead of that, like in a hurry, you just simply like access your private variable from here. So this should not happen. So in that case, basically it is a little bit complicated to remember. You need to write the name of the object, put a dot, write an underscore, and after that put the name of the class, that is a student, right? And then double underscore and PRI, that is private, right? So this is basically how we just like try to access the public, protected and private variables of a class, and this is how we just declare them, this is how we just like access these variables, right? So at last I will just quickly give the revision once more, that public variables are the variables which can be accessible with the help of the class and with the help of the object. Protected are the ones which can be accessed with the child class, and private are the ones which can be accessed with the class name. And here one concept applies, that is name mangling, that I have already told you, right? I'm just going to tell you that what are these static methods and how to just make the things and write the program for the static method, right? So for this, basically what I'm just doing is that I would be start writing the program here. So for that, firstly, the first thing that I would be doing is that I would be making a class, right? So let's say that again, the name for my class is a student, the same name which I had used previously, okay? So student is the name of my class. Coming on to next line, I would just make the like variable, and that is number of subjects, let's say, okay? And I just assign the values, let's say 10. Okay, now this number of subjects is actually my class variable, and for this actually we just call it as public variable also, right? So that is done. After that, I would just initialize the init function. So def underscore underscore, here I would just add on init. Okay, here and then and again underscore and then the bracket. So inside this the self is automatically passed because I have made this function inside the class, right? So in that case the self is automatically passed. I would put the comma and let's say again I would just add on the parameters a name, a marks, and let's say it is a class. Okay, let's say these are the three parameters which I had added on here. So for using these, basically what I'll be just doing is that I'll be using my self method, right? I would just use here self dot a name, sorry, self dot name is equal to a name, right? So these a name, a marks, and a class which I had made, actually these are optional. If you just want to make them on your own, basically if you just want to make them, you can just make them. If you do not and you just want to give out some other name to them, let's say not a name, let's say you want to give out the name as anything whichever you wish, right? That is also applicable here, but here as I have basically taken it for an example. Right, that is done. After that, I would just write self dot marks. Okay, self dot marks is equal to, and that would be a marks. Right, and here after that, I would just add on self dot class is equal to. Okay, so class is a keyword, so I cannot use that thing. Okay, let me just do this thing. Name is done, marks. Let me just take it to section. Okay, and here also just let me change this a class to a section. Right. Actually, that class is a keyword, right? So I cannot just use that keyword as the name of a variable or something else, right? So here this is a section, right? So all of the things are just done here. After that, what I would be just doing is that I would be making a variable, and that variable will actually be, sorry, I would be making a function, and that function will actually be displaying all the details or whatever I had just entered into the objects of the class, right? So let's say that function for me is details, def details, and then the brackets. So inside this also, as you have seen, the self is automatically passed because I mentioned that for the self, we had defined this details function inside the class, right? So in that case, it will automatically be passed. So I would just return out the f string. I just want to use the f string here because I just want that whatever the things I have written, they all the things and all the values which are in the variable, they all come line by line. Okay, so in that case I will be using my f strings here. So in that case basically I'll be writing that name is, and inside these curly brackets I'll be adding self dot, and here I would just add name. Okay, I would put a comma, I would just add here marks are, and here I would be adding that self dot marks. Okay, and I would be adding that, and section is, and in the bracket I would be adding here self dot section. Okay, let's say these are the three things which I just wanted to be displayed as an output, so I just mentioned these things. If you do not want the name in the output, you do not mention that. If you do not want marks, you do not mention that. It's totally on your choice that what you want to enter and what you do not want to enter, right? So what here I'd be just doing is that I'd quickly be making a class method, let's say as an example. Okay, so let's leave that class method for now. So I would just discuss that at the last of the video. Right now I would just focus on the static method. So for making out the static method, the procedure is again same as we had done for the class method. We had put the at the rate sign, and after that at the rate sign I had written class method, right? The procedure is absolutely same for this static method also. I need to put the at the rate sign, and then I just need to write here as static, okay, static, static, and then static and then method. This is basically how we make a static method in the object oriented programming, right? This is how actually we declare. So as I mentioned even previously also, right now I'm just repeating again that the static methods and the class methods, both are, these are the methods which are actually made using the help of this at the rate sign. Okay, now inside this, if I want to make a function, let's say, so I would just make a function, let's say div, and that function is, let's say, print underscore str. Let's say I just want to print a string here. Okay, now In the static methods, nothing is being passed inside the bracket. If you just willing to pass an argument, a parameter, then you can. Otherwise, automatically nothing is passed here. Okay, as we just basically inside the class, the self parameter is passed inside the function, right? Even for the class methods also, CLS is passed, right? But for the starting methods, nothing is passed inside the brackets. Only the parameter which you will be entering on your own, that will only be basically that will only be having here. Okay. Let's say my parameter is a string, which I just want to pass here. And after that, inside the print statement, I will simply want to write that, let's say my name is, and okay, my name is, and I would just use the plus sign. And after that, I would just use here as a string. Right, let's say this is the thing which I just wanted to print it. In this case, I can even use the F string also. Right, if I just wanted, I can use the F string, but why I haven't? Because what will, yeah, I can just use that, but I haven't used that because this is the best method, like easiest method, which I can just use here. Okay, and in here, even I just use out the return. So instead that, I just wanted to use the print statement. That is why I haven't used my F string here. Okay, now come on to the, okay, just remove it from here. And yes, now come on to the next line, and basically here I'll be declaring the object for my class. So let's say small a, I had made an object that is a small a, okay, and the name for my class was a student. So object has been made, and let's say the like values which I will be passing inside this. Let's say the student name is Sita, right? Let's say this is the first name. After that, we had taken marks, right? So the marks are, let's say, 45, and after that we had taken section. Let's say the section is B. Okay, let's come on to the next line. If I just want to declare one more object, I can. So I would just write here B is equal to student, and now let's say the name for another one is Meera. Okay, let's this is the name. So I would again put a comma, and let's say the marks are actually 50 here, and let's say the section is C. Right, these are the details which I can just pass on here for the object. Now you all know that basically if I just want to print any of the details, then how will I be doing that thing? So I'm just not going to repeat that thing again here. I would just let you know how to access that static method, right? So in that case, I just need to use the name of my class, that is a student. Okay, I would just use the name of my class, that is student. I would put a dot here, and after that I would simply use the function that I had made, that is print underscore str. Okay, and in the bracket I would just pass on the string which I just wanted to be added after the my name is a string, right? So that I just, let's say I just wanted to be added as Shambhavi here, right? So I have just passed on that thing here. Now if I run my program, so now just again have a look at the output, that what output I am getting. So let me just come down to the next line here. So the output which I am getting is that my name is Shambhavi. So my name is was a format which I wanted, and after that I just use the plus string this. So instead of that string, the Shambhavi is being printed because I have passed the value to the parameter. Okay. Now let's say I just comment out this line, and okay, let me copy this line and now comment it. If I just want to now access this static method function, okay, static method function with the help of my class, okay, let's say a dot print underscore strs. A was my object name for my class, right? Now if I just run it once again here, see, now again it is basically giving me the output, that is my name is Shambhavi. Let me show you that thing. Let me come down here. Right. So it is giving me the output, that is my name is Shambhavi. So what I can just say from here regarding the static method, that static methods can be accessed from the classes as well as from the instance of the class. You can just call it as from the object of the class as well. Right. So these are the things which we have about the static methods, and I would just like comment this one line also. And if you just want to print out the details, so for that even I would just let you know that right here print. After that use the a dot details function. Okay, and now just simply run it. So this was the thing which was already covered, but again I just revised this thing. So now you see the output which I am getting, that name is Sita, marks are 45 and section is B. So I just wanted my output to come in this way, that whatever the things, whatever the properties, what the values I have entered, all of them should come in between the sentence that I am using, that I am writing actually. Okay. So this was the reason that why I have actually used my f string. Fine. So this was the thing, and here I just do not want anything to be entered in between. I simply want it to be entered at the last. So that is why I did not use my f strings. If you just want to use, you can even use. But there was no use of this because I want this to be printed at the last. Right. So I hope you had got the idea that how to declare the static method, how to make the static method in this object-oriented programming. Learn about the method overloading and method overriding. So today we are going to see about these two terms, that actually what are these terms, and basically how to do method overloading and overriding in Python programming under the concept of object-oriented programming, right? So basically what do I have? I have overloading is the ability of a function or an operator to behave in different ways based on the parameters that are passed to the function or the operands that the operator acts on. Right. So basically here I have written a definition for overloading, and even I have written a definition for overriding. Now basically what I would just do, I would just write the program for the method overloading first. After that I would again read the definition and then explain you that actually what do I mean from this definition. Right. Let's take it in this procedure. So I would just do enter here, and basically I would just start writing and start making out my classes here, right? So I'm just writing a program, let's say, okay? So I had defined a class and that class is A, okay? Now inside this I would define a function, and let's say that is add, okay? This is a function, and in the bracket I would just pass, this will automatically be passed because we are making basically we are making the function inside a class, right? Put a comma here. Now I just want to pass on some values to A, B and C. I'm just writing a program that if none, basically if A, B or C, if three of these variables are having some values in them, then basically do the addition of these three. If any of the two are having any value, then do the addition of those two. Otherwise they basically print me that give me at least two numbers for addition. This is short like function that I am making here, right? So for that I'm just basically passing out the values for A, B and C as none here, okay? Again I would just write here C is equal to none. So from previously I'm just basically writing and passing on any, like I do not pass any value here, right? Come on to the next line. Here basically I would just apply my several conditions which I just said that I'm just going to add these conditions here. So my first condition is if. Now if A not equal to none, okay, if A not equal to none, and if B is also, okay, B is also not equal to none, uh, and if C is also not equal to none. So this means that if A, B and C, all these three are having some values stored in them, right? So now what to do? Then I need to take a variable, let's say that is P, and I would just do here A plus B plus C, okay? And here after coming out of this next line, I would simply print the P. Right, so as I mentioned that I'm going to write a program, I'm going to make the function in which basically if the values for A, B and C are given, then it will simply add all the three values and give me the result, right? My second condition goes that if any two are having, like if I am just giving the value for A and B, then basically add both of those value, okay? So I will just write here if A not equal to none, and my second condition is that B not equal to none, okay, N-O-N-E, okay. So these two are the conditions that I have given. If A and B are not equal to none, this means that if A and B are basically storing some value, then what to do? Then write the addition for A and B and then simply print that as the output here, that is P, okay, that I have done. Now basically the next and last condition is that if these two conditions are not at all satisfied, then what to do? Then write here print, and I would just add a like print statement. Let me come down. So I would just add a print statement that is give at least two numbers. Okay, I would just add only this much statement, that is give at least two numbers, right? So this is the statement that I have added here. Now basically what to do, I would just go out of my conditions and even my function also, and here I will be making the object for the class A. So obj, and then here it is basically a, right? So obj is equal to a. Now basically that I had made the object for my class. What was the name of my class? Yes, it was a only, correct. And here in the print statement, I would be accessing that function. I would just write obj dot, and the name for the function was add. Now let's say I just want to pass on some values here. Let's say my values are 2, 3, 4. Okay. If I just pass them and if I run out my program here, now just have a look here that what output actually I am getting. So I am getting the answer which is 9. So that is the addition of 2, 3 and 4. So it means my program is actually running correctly, right? Now again come back to the definition of overloading. So now for the overloading, what it is actually written, that overloading is the ability of a function or an operator to behave in different ways. Now just have a look here that the operators, like the functions which we are using, okay, this one function we had used, and that function is behaving in many types, right, based on the parameters that are passed to the function. So if 3 parameters are passed, and it is giving the addition of 3. If 2 parameters are passed, and it is giving me the addition of 2. And if these two conditions are not satisfied, then it is basically saying me that you should give at least 2 numbers for addition, right? So basically on the parameters that are passed to the function or the operands that the operator acts upon. Now I would just read the definition for once again, okay? So overloading is the ability of a function or an operator to behave in different ways based on the parameters that are passed to the function or the operands that the operator acts upon. So actually what we just like meant by overloading, so overloading is basically ability of a function, okay, function or operator, that basically whatever the number of parameters we had passed into that, it will basically act according to the number of parameters which we had passed inside the function. The same thing we are doing here, right? I had passed on 3 parameters here inside my function, right? After that, what it is doing here, it is simply I had added the condition that if all the 3 values are given, then add that all the 3. If only 2 are given, then do the addition of 2. And if these 2 conditions are not satisfied, then print me the statement that is give at least 2 numbers. So this is actually what is called as method overloading. So method overloading is the ability of a function or an operator to behave in different ways based on the parameters that are passed to the function or the operands that the operator acts on, right? Now moving towards the second topic for now, and that is overriding, that is method overriding, okay? Now what does this method overriding actually says? So the method of the child class overrides the method of the parent class when called by an object of the child class. This is called method overriding. So it actually means that the method which is in the child class, that basically overrides the method of the parent class whenever this is basically called by the object of the child class. Let me show you an example that will be more clear to you that what actually I'm just trying to say from this definition, right? So first let me just quickly comment out this whole program. Yes, right. Now just come down and let me start out writing the new program for now. Okay. Now basically here I'll be just declaring one class, that is let's say class, and that of my class is let's say sub. Okay. And I would just put the colon, come on to the next line. I would just add one function here that is out. Okay. Now inside that basically self is automatically passed. Now I will pass 2 parameters A and B. Right, and in the print statement, I would simply add that subtraction is, I would put the colon, and here I would just add, here I put a comma, and here I would write A minus B. Right, so this from this I would be just getting the subtraction of both the numbers, whatever I'm just going to pass in A and B. Right, same procedure, I would be just making another class here. Let's say div is that class, div. Okay, that will basically perform the division of 2 numbers, right? So div and okay, I'll put the colon and come on to next line. So that is div out. Out means my output, the function. Okay, and then I would again pass on 2 parameters A comma B, right? And into my print statement, I would simply write here print, and here I would just write division is, again I would put the colon, put a comma outside my semicolons, and I would just write A divided by B. Right, so this is the thing which I have done. Now what I'll be just doing is that I will be making the object for my div class. Okay, I'll be making the object for this. So let's say here I just write small d. Okay, small d is equal to div object I had made, right? And if I just write d dot out, and now if I just try to run it here and pass some values, let's say 15 comma 5. Okay, let's say these are the values which I had passed. Now if I just try to run it here, so basically have a look at what it is giving me. It is giving me that the division is 3, right? So basically 15 divided by 5 is actually 3, right? Now here what I had done, I had simply made the object for this one, right? Now just come above to the above line where I have written definition and read it the definition that the method of the child class, okay, overrides the method of the parent class when called by an object of the child class. So actually what it is happening here basically I had given the same name for the both of the functions, right? For my parent class, the sub is the parent class. Let me just quickly write out that thing here. So this is my parent class, right? And this division is my child class, right? So I would just write here as child class. Now when I had made the object for my child class, division div is my object for the it is basically my child class, right? So when I had made the object for my child class and I tried to access this, basically this function that is out with the help of the object of my child class, so the same name of the function was even given to my parent class also, right? So my parent class should first run and then my child class. But what it is doing, the object of my child class is overriding the function of my parent class, and it is basically running me the function of my child class that is out, and in that case it is basically resulting me the division, and that is 3.0. Okay, so now I hope you that you have got the idea that why basically I am just not getting the subtraction, that is a minus b, rather than I am getting the division here, because the object of the child class is overriding the function of my parent class. Again, read out the definition for the last time, that the method of the child class overrides the method of the parent class when called by an object of the child class. This is called method overriding, right? So basically I hope now you have got both the terms very clearly, that what we actually mean from method overloading and what we actually mean from method overriding.